There you are again. Welcome back. This is Intermediate Writing with Professor Kent Lee. By the way, last year I realized I called the course in English Composition, Intermediate Composition. I'm just going with Intermediate Writing to, I guess, more consistent with, I think, what other professors have called the course when they taught it. I don't know who else is teaching. I kind of know who else is teaching the course. I don't know how others teach the course here. I'm very much a rebel. I do things my own way. So as I explained, it's going to have a bit of an academic and professional focus, especially in the writing assignments, and hopefully geared to something that's kind of practical for your future, so you can explore things related to maybe things you might do in the future, especially companies, NGOs, educational institutions, where you might want to work as a teacher or educator, school systems of any kind. And again, if you have questions about that, feel free to ask me. In today's video, or in this second video of today, I'm going to go over first a little section in the book. After the syllabus section in my book, there's a little section on tech tips and such. So I'm going to quickly go through some general tips for general software for writing classes, email, file backup, a little bit about browsers, some reference resources also that you will want to use. And then I'll also talk about ways of improving your, not just writing, but English skills in general. And then we'll talk about upcoming assignments. So first, let's look at the book. You may not have the book yet, so that's fine. After you get the book, when it's available, read the syllabus, and then look over the next section. It's called General Tips and Resources. It includes some tech tips. I'm a tech person. I like technology. I'm hoping that the video quality of these videos will get better. Last year I really had problems with, even last semester I had problems with the video quality and audio quality. I'm upgrading some of my hardware right now. Hopefully after that's done, I'm building a new computer, and after that's done, I hope the quality of these videos will be better. This one hopefully is okay. I've been having some problems lately, strange problems with like a lot of noise problems, and I hope this one is okay. Anyway, software, doing assignments. So when you do assignments in my class, writing assignments, like essays, paragraph assignments, there are a number of options available. If you have Microsoft Office, Microsoft Word, that's fine. It's actually not the greatest word processor out there. It's okay. It's mainly designed for business writing, not really academic writing. But it's okay. It's just really expensive. If you have a free version, use it. It's fine. I can open up Word documents. But I don't usually use Windows. I can still open Word documents. I use Linux rather than Windows. I do have a couple of Windows computers, and yeah, I can use them, but I'd rather not unless I have to, because I prefer using Linux on my nice computer that I'm building. But I can open up Word documents. If you don't have Microsoft Word, you don't need to pay a lot of money to Microsoft. Don't waste your money. Don't give them money. Again, I don't like Microsoft and Windows. Don't give them money, please. There are free alternatives. I use LibreOffice. My book is written in LibreOffice. It uses its own format, but you can also save it into Word format. Either way, it's fine. I can open them. It also has its own PDF creator, and you can create PDFs from that. RTF is fine. There are some other free programs available like Polaris and WPS Office, which are sort of clones of Microsoft Office, and they will work fine too. Look at the free ones if you don't have Microsoft Office. I don't recommend HWP, Hansoft, or Hangul Word, whatever the official name is, for a couple of reasons. It's designed for Korean, and it works well for that. But it doesn't work well for English. The way English text looks on screen or on paper is just strange. It doesn't render English render that is do display English text that well, and also they don't make they only make a Windows version, as far as I know, maybe Android, but it's like they're kind of stuck in the 1990s. Like, oh, Windows is everything. Windows is all we care about. Very much a 1990s mentality, Windows only. And I can't open those on my Linux machines. You need to use, if you're dealing with like international clients, international businesses, in the Internet International, you shouldn't use HWP. They won't be able to open it. You should use a universal format. And of course, the LibreOffice format is pretty universal. Microsoft format is pretty universal. Any operating system in any country can open those as well. Another option is to use Google Docs. If you have Gmail, you've got Google Docs with your Gmail account. It's got a word processor. It's not great, but it works fine. And you can save it in PDF or Word or the LibreOffice ODT file. Any of those are fine if you need to when you submit documents in the LMS for assignments. Gmail, the Google Docs, it's a very basic word processor, but it's free and it works fairly well. It's pretty reliable. And let's see, anything else? Don't use anything weird. Don't just send me like a paragraph assignment as plain text in an email. Except there's one assignment maybe next week where I ask you to write me an email, a full-length email, but otherwise don't do that unless it's specific to the assignment. Anyway, so these assignments will be posted in the LMS, and you'll submit the documents in the LMS assignment space. Okay, let's see, file backup. You should, so sending assignments, if it's something important, an important question or an assignment that you're sending by email, like the LMS is misbehaving and you can't upload your document in the LMS, or you were sick and you can't do it in time, you can email it to me. Send it to at least 2 of my email accounts. And I recently started using, and I've used my kentley7@gmail for a long time, and you can use that +W. That's sort of a little trick that sends it into a folder in my Gmail for this class. And I've recently started using Kent Lee. Ooh, I need to fix that in my syllabus. I've got an old email address here. Kent Lee, or kent@kentley7.com, and I've set up a Gmail service for that. There are reasons I need to send out feedback on assignments to a lot of students, and regular Gmail says no more than 100 a day, or 80 a day, or a certain time, certain number of emails within an hour. I know they're trying to stop spammers, but for teachers, professors, it's not good when I need to email feedback to, 50 students or 100 students at once, and Gmail is not allowing me to do so. So I've set up a different Gmail service. It's more of a business type of service for my Kentley7 account. So you will probably get things from me from that kentley7.com account. So make sure, especially if you have a certain email services, like some Korean mail services, are very suspicious of outside email addresses, like they don't know. They might kind of complain if, like, oh, for the first time you're getting something from kentley7@gmail.com, but especially if it's something from a domain they don't know, like kentley7.com, I've never heard of that. So you might need to put my contact info into your email contact list or address book. I use email apps, so you might send me an email, and because I'm using an app to check email, it might not tell you that I checked it. File backup, really important. You might not have had the awful experience of a computer crashing on you and destroying all your work. Your life goes up before you, in front of your eyes. That happened to me 20 years ago or so. And I've known from time to time, like a student of mine has said, do you have a copy of my paper? Because my computer crashed and I've lost that really important paper. Sorry. In the early 2000s, fortunately, a company came along called Dropbox, and it was a savior, a lifesend. So I do all my work in my Dropbox folder on my computer. It works for Windows, Macintosh, Linux, Android, any operating system, whatever, you can handle Dropbox. File backup, automatic file backup. If your computer crashes, it's on your Dropbox server. It's on the Dropbox server. Or you can get it from another computer, another device. It automatically backs up and syncs or synchronizes between your Dropbox and your different devices. For the free version, you get 2 free gigabytes of space. It should be enough for you. And I think you can use it, install it on 2 or 3 devices. 2 free gigabytes. It's a very nice interface. Now there are other companies that offer similar services. That's fine. Use whatever works for you. Your Google Drive, if you have a Gmail account, you've got Google Drive or Google Docs. And you can use that too for composing your documents, even if you don't compose it in the Google Doc word processor, the Google, it's called Google Write, just Google Doc. You can still upload it to your Google Drive. You can use that as file backup. The interface is it's definitely more awkward and harder to work with, but they give you 5 free gigabytes to store your documents. So use that, use some other service, but definitely use Dropbox or something similar. You have to. Computers will crash, it will eat your documents, your file can get messed up. You can get it from the Dropbox server. You can get a version from a couple of hours earlier, the last time you saved it from your Dropbox server. It's a lifesaver. Browsers, get a modern browser like Chrome, Firefox. Edge is just Microsoft's copy of Chrome. It's just their own clone of Chrome. Microsoft Explorer was an awful piece of garbage, and they couldn't design their own browser, so they just took Chrome. It's legal, you can do it. They just took the Chrome code and made it into their own. It's just a copy of Chrome. Because Microsoft is incompetent. Anyway, get a modern browser. Especially with modern browsers, you can install extra add-ons, tools, extensions. Dictionary apps is a really nice, so dictionary app in your browser, PDF creation apps, screenshot apps, all kinds of nice things you can install in your browser like Firefox or Chrome. Reference materials, I've got some reference materials here. Some online dictionaries. It will help you to use an online dictionary, a decent English dictionary. There's several here. Also a thesaurus. A thesaurus is a synonym dictionary to find synonyms. And let's say you're writing a paper and like, oh, what's a better word for give? Well, go to a thesaurus and it will give you like lots of words. Well, contribute, donate. Well, what's the difference? Well, then you can just go to a Google search and search for contribute, donate, and see how they're used in context. See which one works for you, how they're used in context. There's some other sources here, including my own website, the nwiki.org, which has some reference stuff on here. Web searches, sometimes you need to search in Google for stuff, and there are some search tips you might not know for Google. So let's say you want to write a paper about, for example, science fiction. You're writing a paper for a class on science fiction writing, and if you put in science fiction, it might give you stuff on science and fiction. No, I don't want that. Put science fiction quotation marks, science fiction, and it searches for just that phrase, science fiction. And let's say maybe I want French or Spanish science fiction, so in films, so I can type in science fiction films or science fiction films in quotes. and Spanish or French with or, and that will give me stuff on the French or Spanish science fiction films. But it gives me stuff on something I don't want. Well, I can put a minus sign, say minus. Let's say, well, it's giving me all this stuff in French and Spanish science fiction, and I know this director, but I want to do like newer stuff and all the hits from this one particular director. So let's say minus, Fellini or something, like minus Fellini is a filmmaker, so minus Fellini, and take out hits on Fellini, and because I want like other newer stuff. So there are some tips like that on file searches or searching for sources in Google. And for this class, you probably want to use Google Scholar for more academic sources sometimes. So regular Google search might give you good stuff, it might give you trash. You go to scholar.google.com, Google Scholar, and it will give you searches from just academic websites, university websites, academic publishers, things like that. I should put that in here. In a minute. Okay, let's see. That's I think the highlights of this section of the book. Let's talk about language learning, improving your writing, not just writing, but your English in general. So it depends on really what's the role of English in your future. But if you're really serious about improving your English, you really want to improve your English and then writing, one class, one semester is not going to, do magic for you. It's really up to you. One of the best things you can do to improve your writing or your language skills in general is just to do a lot of reading. And by reading, you expose yourself to lots of different sentence patterns and different kinds of styles of writing and different phrases and expressions you might not know or might not know that well enough to just for you to use in your daily writing and conversation. So doing a lot of reading is really good. Let's talk about some ideas for doing reading. One kind of reading is called intensive reading, and that's often something you have to do in a class. You have to read a particular essay in your class, and you have to fully understand this essay because you have to write about it in your own paper. It could be a poem you have to analyze. It could be an article or a book you have to read for a class or for your research paper. That's intensive reading. You have to intensively read and understand everything. So how do you do that? The biggest trap in learning a language is for language learners to just start reading, and then you see a word you don't know and just go right to the dictionary. You interrupt your reading and you go to the dictionary. Not a good idea, at least your first time reading through the text. Because as you're starting to read something, well, your brain is creating this sort of mental model in your mind of the meaning of the text. Well, what is this all meaning? What's the writer trying to say? What can I guess about the writer and the writer's intentions? What's going on in this text? What are the ideas? The writer's trying to explain something or describe something. Whatever kind of text you're reading, whether it's a fictional story or if it's a science text or news article or whatever it is, your brain is creating this mental model of the meaning. And then when you stop to look up something, your model just halts. And then you start again and then you stop and start again and stop. So your model is going to be like really gappy. It's going to have all these gaps. It's going to be like, it's just going to be more like a glass that fell on the floor and broke into 100 pieces. It's not a very clear model. It doesn't help you. So you need to read through the whole thing once or twice without worrying about things you don't understand. Just try to get the gist, the general main idea or main ideas of the text. Do that first. Don't be distracted by looking up words or sentences that are a few sentences that are hard to understand. Read through the whole thing first, then read through it again, and then try to guess the meaning of words that you don't know. If possible, guess them from context, and just read through, again like that. In each of these, we need to do once or twice. Then you can read through like again, and then if there's a word you really need to know, you can look it up. And if it's online, install a browser extension, a dictionary extension in your browser, so you can double click on the word and up pops a definition in your language. Those are really cool, like Chrome and Firefox. And then finally read the whole thing again, once or twice, a few more times, so you can better understand the entire meaning of the entire text. And that's intensive reading. And you have to do that, and it's helpful if you do it, in a way that actually works, where you're not fighting against your brain's attempt to understand the whole thing, because your brain is trying to understand the whole thing. So you need to kind of work with that and follow the way your brain works. Get the general meaning model, what's going on in the text before you identify words, and then read it again to fully develop that kind of mental model, that understanding of the text. Then there's extensive reading. So one of the problems in your first language, in the second language, in reading, is this. In the second language, your brain actually takes more time to process grammar and vocabulary, especially words that are less familiar. Maybe you know the words, but they're just less familiar to you. Now, in your first language, it's not like that. In your native language, you have been doing it since you were a baby, and you have hundreds of thousands of hours of experience in that language, reading, writing, listening, speaking. For a second language, your brain doesn't have that experience. So in your first language, you almost never think about the grammar. What's the grammar of this sentence? Your brain does it automatically. You don't think about it. Whether you're listening to something or reading something or writing something or talking, you don't think about the grammar. Unless it's just a weird sentence or a complex sentence. You don't think about the grammar. And you don't think, unless it's a new word, you don't think about the word meanings. Your brain just instantly recognizes the meanings. Oh, that word means that. And it's all instant. It's automatic. You don't have that automatic ability, that what we call automaticity, in your second language. And so reading is slower. And it takes more time. In reading or listening to a lecture, it's more mentally tiring because your brain is working extra hard. More of your active working memory is used for doing grammar and vocabulary in a second language. Now, there's no easy way to overcome that except to expose yourself to a lot of input and maybe doing a lot of output, talking and writing, but a lot of input. And it could be from watching media materials, but also especially from reading. Reading is maybe the best thing, especially in a country, if you're in a country where English is not around you all the time, like here in Korea. So expose yourself to as much of the language you can. If you're really serious about improving your English writing and your English in general, extensive reading. So this is stuff you do outside of class. You don't have to do it for class. It's just on your own. So exposing yourself every day, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. Over time, you can develop more of that automatic ability where more and more stuff will become automatic and faster and easier for you over time. But it takes a lot of work. You have to do this consistently and regularly, every day, all the time, for as long as you want to improve in the language. This develops your working memory ability. You also get better at learning to understand new words from context without having to look them up. You get better at just training your brain to process the language, and you get to learn new expressions and new phrases and how words are used in context, which words are used together with, in typical contexts, which words go together. This is formal or informal style or such. And those are the benefits of extensive reading, and it's better if you do a lot of extensive reading of different genres, kinds of literature. Comics, hey, totally fine. Cartoons, cool. From entertainment stuff, comics, blogs, to more serious stuff, news, academic articles, that's just for your own enjoyment or interest. whatever it is, novels, of course, fiction, just reading a lot of different stuff in the language is important for training your brain. So it's that brain training that's really key to develop the language. Now, by the way, in Korean, my Korean is terrible. It's awful. It sucks. And one problem is it's really low level, and I haven't found like authentic materials like reading materials and TV or videos that are at my really low level. I need something that's kind of at my low level. Maybe I need to watch more cartoons or something. That might help, because I can't watch like a regular Korean TV show. I just can't. I can't understand anything. I need something that's really basic to my level. I'm still looking. If you have ideas, please let me know. I welcome suggestions. So for you, you need to find reading materials, video materials that are appropriate to your level. If it's too hard, you're gonna go, oh, this is frustrating, I give up. You lose motivation, you lose interest, and you can't really learn very well. You need something that's at the right level for you. It's not too hard, so you won't get frustrated or feel lost. Okay, so if you have suggestions for me for my Korean, hey, please let me know. Okay, so we've talked about some general tips, tech tips. We've talked about some general tips for learning, improving your English skills, other languages. Now let's talk about assignments, upcoming assignments. What do you need to do? The first assignment in all my classes will be a Google form. And now for Google Forms, again, the grades are based on effort. It's usually like 10 points. The first one is pretty easy. As long as you seriously fill it out, easy 10 points. It's some contact information and survey questions. So I need like 2 email addresses from you in case I need to contact you, or when I send feedback to you on your assignments, I need email addresses for you. And then survey questions about your English learning, how you feel about learning, how you feel about English. If you took my class before and did it, please fill it out again. If you're taking another class from me right now, my conversation class, you can just fill out the one form for both classes. No problem. You don't have to fill it out twice this week, but even if you did it last semester or last year, fill it out again, please. I need that information. The survey questions are for my research, and I will, if you don't want me to use your data for my research, that's fine. I think at the end of the form there's a checkbox. You can say, please don't use my data, or yes, you can use my data. Doesn't matter. You get 10 points if you just fill it out. I just want you to fill it out. If you don't like me using your data, that you can opt out, no problem. You still get your 10 points. Doesn't matter. But I might use it someday I will use it someday for my research. So that's your first Google form. Second Google form. I'm going to have you think about your pre-writing techniques. So let me explain what pre-writing means. Pre-writing, let's say you have an essay assignment to do. My class, your literature class, your linguistics class, some other class, you have to write something. Whether it's a paragraph or a full essay, research paper, especially in English, how do you get started? What do you do? What kind of methods do you use to brainstorm, like generate ideas, and then pre-write? That's getting your ideas into paper, or at least that document on the computer screen. How do you get started with the writing process? I want you to think about it. There are different things that maybe you do. Maybe you haven't thought about it. Maybe you're just used to writing in high school or Hagwon classes, TOEFL prep courses. But in college, it's different. What worked for you in the past might not work here, and you need to find new methods. So what are you doing? I'm not asking you what you think you should do. I'm asking what you do. What do you actually do? And we're going to talk about that a bit next week. So pre-writing. Do you brainstorm? Do you just do you have to go to a coffee shop? Do you need to rest some, just think about it while you're walking along the beach? how do you start generating ideas? Do you need to talk with friends and do some kind of back and forth exchange, create ideas? Do you start like free writing? You just write down whatever comes to mind on paper and okay, cool. There's no one way for every person. People are different, and you should find what works for you and what you're comfortable with and what helps you. And after you got some ideas, well, how do you start to shape them and organize them into something that sounds coherent and understandable to other people? Do you do outlining, whatever? What do you do? We'll talk about those a little bit next week. And then later next week, we'll start into definition paragraphs, talking about defining terms. So there will be a Google form coming up soon, either this weekend or maybe later next week, about defining terms. So as I explained, there'll be like some Google forms. Sometimes they're based on some questions in the book. So I will ask you to look at, well, there's a section in the book, there's a little exercise on defining terms, definitions, and I want you to respond to that in a Google form. That's next week. Another thing that's coming up is more of a writing assignment, a short writing assignment. I'm going to ask you to send me an email, maybe a self-introduction email or something like that. Now I'm old, I'm a dinosaur, and when I was in college, email wasn't really a thing. It was limited to maybe engineering departments, students in engineering departments. And I finished college in 1991, so email was not really common. I think the next year it started to become more common throughout, so the students in different departments had this new thing called email, and they were doing it. They started to use it. It was very primitive back then. And then the World Wide Web came out, started to become a thing when I started graduate school. I'm old. I bet the first time I saw a web browser, it was about 1994. Yes, first time I saw anybody really saw a web browser. Those started around 1994. Now they're everywhere. So, graduate school, email became a thing. Quickly became a part of academic culture, and it still is. Email is how professors, except maybe a few old ones, a lot of professors communicate with each other around the world, with their academic organizations and with students and such. And if you go to a company, your company will be using email. It's commonly used in companies. So some students in your generation, maybe you grew up on texting and chatting and you haven't used email yet, you have to get used to email. You can just say, like, your boss says, "Oh, I sent you an email." "Oh, I don't do email." Fine, find another job. Seriously, email is important. Or your professor will get upset if you ignore emails, if you don't read your email. It's important. It's part of academic and business and professional culture. So I will do a lecture on proper email form, especially more formal emails. And I'm going to ask you to write me an email. That will be an assignment, either a minor assignment or a paragraph assignment. I'm not sure yet. So there will be an email assignment, an email writing assignment coming up maybe next week or so. So watch out for that. So pay attention to the LMS. In your LMS, you're going to be seeing there's going to be a new syllabus posted. The book, a link to my book, will be posted. Your first Google form assignment, this kind of personal information and survey questions. A Google form assignment about your pre-writing methods, an email writing assignment, and then an assignment about defining paragraphs. That sounds like a lot. So you might have, like, before each weekend, you might have, 1, 2, 3 Google form assignments due, because in the next week I'm maybe going to talk about those topics, or talk about something and then give you an assignment about it. So that's kind of how the course is going to proceed this semester. If you have any questions about the course, please post your questions in the LMS or email me, and I usually try to answer those in a timely manner. So I think that's all. So we've talked about a bit more about the class, some general tech tips, some general language learning tips, and your upcoming assignments. So pay attention to your LMS. Things may be posted sometimes pretty often. So that's it for now, and we will come back next week and start talking about pre-writing techniques, about writing emails, and about different types of paragraphs, starting with definitions and defining terms and what makes a good definition. Okay, so that's it for now. So enjoy your weekend, enjoy your homework, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.